And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the February 28th Public and Protective Services Committee. I'll call this meeting to order. And first up, we have a delegation. Ms. Gard, please come on up. Introduce yourself for folks watching online that might not know you. And I think you know the routine here, but you get about 5 minutes, and then we get a chance to pepper you with questions if we have any. And please. And as you come up, I do want to say congratulations on the exciting lineup that just got announced.
Thank you. Can't lie, I'm pretty excited myself. So I'm, as a lot of you probably know, I'm Sarah Cardin, the producer for the Bear Creek Folk Fest. And firstly, thanks to all of you who did make it out to our event. It was a really successful event. We were really proud to present 10 fantastic local artists and kind of showcase what Grande Prairie has to offer. So it was a lot of fun. And we were also really excited to finally release our festival lineup for this year, which does include Sarah McLachlan, along with Blue Rodeo, the Strumbellas, and a whole bunch of others. So the reason I'm here today is to just speak for the grant that we have applied for, the funding for this upcoming festival, and answer any questions that any of you guys might have before it goes forward. This year we have experienced a pretty significant increase in our costs for the festival. We've seen over $100,000 in cost increases. So across the board, we have with all of our funders, we've increased from what our past asks have been. So that is the reason why our ask this year to the city was $95,000, which is up from what we had requested in 2019. Following our 2019 festival, Travel Alberta provided us with an event impact summary, which I'd be happy to share a copy with anyone who's interested that hasn't already seen it. But it estimates that our festival brought approximately $1.1 million in business sales and $800,000 in direct sales. And Travel Alberta said that if we can increase our day attendees by just 5%, our total overnight attendees by just 5%, we would increase our direct spending in these two categories by $400,000 to a total of just shy of $1.5 million into our local economy. These numbers were a projection for our 2020 festival, which got canceled due to COVID. But by all estimations, our 2022 festival actually well exceeded that. We had just record-breaking attendance. So I would estimate, although we have not seen the numbers yet from Travel Alberta, that last year's festival did exceed those numbers. And I'm really excited to say that this year we're already seeing a steep increase in our ticket sales and interest. So I expect it to go up again. But it's just to show how much of an economic difference we can make with each little increment in terms of the increase in our attendance. So our plan is to continue to increase our out-of-town marketing and continue to grow that and really become an important economic and tourism driver for the city, even more than we've already been. And with artists like Sarah McLachlan and Blue Rodeo, we're off to a really good start this year. Just a couple other just really quick little things. I don't want to talk for too long, but like I said, ticket sales have really been going up. We've been seeing a lot of increases. We are also really pushing hard to continue to increase our community partnerships and develop the ones that we already have. We put every decision we make through the filter, what more can we do for Grande Prairie and to make this a better place? And so we deliberately do outreach with a lot of groups that may find themselves a little more disenfranchised in our society. Last year, we started partnering with the Grande Prairie for the Centre for Canadian Newcomers to invite them to be part of our volunteer program, as well as a new partnership with the Luna program, who service cognitively and physically disabled clients. And they had such an amazing time participating as volunteers, and it really was such a high impact on them. We're excited to continue to develop that, and we have reached out this year to the Friendship Center, and we're continuing to try to grow in the ways that we impact Grande Prairie, not just economically or with tourism, but also just to really try to make a difference in every possible way. And we're also developing a youth mentorship program as well. So yeah, we've got a lot of really exciting plans. We were excited this year that the Chamber of Commerce recognized us with their Diversity and Inclusion Award, which is a really it means a lot to me because it's something that's so important to us. So and we also, in our efforts to make sure that the festival remains as accessible as possible to anyone, regardless of their financial status, age, race, disability, or minority status of any kind, we're also continuing to work to develop our community giving program, which donates hundreds of tickets every year to low-income families, organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters, and Odyssey House and Serenity Place, and people who service people that might not be able to afford to come. So we really consider ourselves to be a very strong, growing to be a very strong part of the Grande Prairie community in so many ways, and we have appreciated so much the support that the city has given us over the years, and I hope that you continue to support us.
Excellent. Well, definitely appreciate the information and appreciate the work that yourself and all your volunteers put into it. So thank you for that. I see Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Sarah, for coming in. Yes, it was really nice to see some live entertainment. I guess that was Saturday night?
Yeah, Saturday night.
Good. My question to you is, you said you have significant cost increases.
Yeah.
Where are they coming from?
Kind of everywhere. A lot of it is inflation caused. So I think the biggest driver is transportation costs, because it's caused artist fees to go up. It's caused the cost of our goods to go up. Across the board, almost every aspect of the festival is more expensive this year. We are also seeing there, and this may or may not happen, but because we are seeing a heavy increase in ticket sales, which is a good thing for us financially, it may cause this to be the year where we have to expand our site. We've had a kind of plan in place for when we have to trigger it to go across the river. And this is a total sidebar, but if we have to do that, that's actually going to heavily increase our infrastructure costs as well in so many ways. But even without that, just absolutely kind of almost everything is more expensive this year.
What percentage are you looking at about?
I mean, well, it's, and new quotes keep coming in, but as it stands, we're looking at, it's about $100,000 to $120,000 difference than other years, which represents about a 10% increase. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have another question if there's other people. Go ahead.
Sure, I'll come back to you, but I'll let Councillor Blackmore get in next.
So, Sarah, it's great to see you, and it was a great event Saturday night. I loved the festival last year. I've gone every year, so an avid attender. I know that you have a site available for donations, and I'm wondering if you want to talk about that for a minute.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we have a few different mechanisms for donations to be available. We actually gotten very lucky where community members have donated larger amounts to us, and that's done kind of directly by contacting me, emailing the festival directly. But also on our we have a Shopify store that has a donation button that you can press, and there's even on our website. There's a donate, but I believe there is on our website. But if not, there is on our store. But definitely, probably the easiest way to donate to the festival is to just email me directly, and I would love to hear from anybody that wants to get involved in that way, or as a wanting to participate in any way like that.
Good, so we can share that information with anyone that talks to us. I'm also curious if you know how much your attendance jumped last year from 2019, I guess would be a better year to base it against.
So it last year was a little bit of a rusty year for our volunteers, and it's the one and only year that the actual on-site sales, our gate did not manage to track the exact number of people. So all we have is estimates. What I can tell you is that revenue-wise, we saw a significant increase in ticket revenue, and across the board, we felt a heavier impact of people. Just as an example, our previous liquor sales record had been $56,000, and this last year we sold $106,000 in liquor. And so there was just a lot. We estimate it was like I don't want to pretend like I have that exact number because there was an error with our gate, but we saw such an increase in revenue that we're aware that there was a difference. This year, we're hoping to actually track that number a lot better. We do know that there was roughly 6,000 people on site per day at the festival.
Okay, yeah, it was
over
busy.
the 3 days. Yeah.
I'm excited mostly about Brothers Landreth and Jigham, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a tremendous event. I enjoyed the performances on Saturday night, and it was interesting. One of your performers said they got accepted to the June festival in Edmonton. Is that correct?
Juno Fest is what, yeah.
Yeah, that's tremendous to see that. Now it's you performed in the Bear Creek Festival? Wow, we'll invite you, and I think that's kudos of how this is going to grow.
Well, one fantastic thing that we have found that has been growing at our festival is it has gotten to a point of such national recognition that there are a lot of other visiting industry that attends. We hand out a couple hundred passes to guests, I guess, of the festival. We see people coming from the Edmonton and Calgary Festival. There's festivals in Ontario that are even attending this year, and people that book all kinds of folk clubs. We're just seeing, it's a larger concentration and a growing concentration every year of people that want to come and check out artists at our festival. And it's been fantastic as well to see the opportunities that we've had a number of artists tell us that playing our festival has been life-changing for them, where they've, gotten a record deal out of it, or a new agent, or a tour, or songwriting, co-writing opportunities. So it's been spectacular to see all the different ways that it's affected people's lives and artists, Grande Prairie-based artists, as well as artists coming into Grande Prairie who now have these amazing memories of Grande Prairie because it was where their career got started.
Yeah. On top of that, I always like to wander through the crowd, and I'll sit down and I talk to anybody. So, poor to you. So I talked to people from the island, Vancouver Island that came up, Comox, Lethbridge, Prince George, people from all over, and there was a circuit of people, like you said, that traveled the Folk Fest tour. So it's nice to know that we're having a reach and a farther reach. And the last point, that you're a nonprofit, and I want to thank you for that.
One thing I actually should have mentioned while I was talking is that this year is a particularly important funding year for us because next year one of our funders isn't going to be available to us. Our CIP grant that we get $75,000 is only available 2 years, and then you have to take a year off. And to replace that money, we would love to apply for some money from Alberta Foundation for the Arts. We've been unable to qualify for that money because of our debt load. They just will not fund until our debt is lower. And we've been inching our debt down. We've now 3 years in a row where we've managed to make a profit, and we've been kind of slowly whittling our debt down. But we would really, really love to be able to, if our ticket sales are strong enough this year, we're hoping to pile a lot of that money into, again, decreasing that debt, which will help us with some other funding. We've been having the same problem with federal funding as well. There's one of our federal funders that has their prime reason for not funding us up until this point, again, has been this debt that has been stuck on our shoulders. So, obviously, money that we get from grant funders like the city does not go into debt. It goes into paying for the festival, but it does allow us the ability to, if we do really well with ticket sales, to put more of that money into the debt, which could really help save our bacon next year when we have less funding options available to us. So it helps kind of really grow the strength of the festival as well, and helps to keep us strong.
So you actually presupposed the question I was going to get myself into ask. Are you able to provide about where you are with the debt and how it compares to your annual revenue?
Yeah. So our debt load right now sits at, and I'm saying this as a strong estimate, but we don't have our actual financials yet from our accountant. But we're sitting at roughly $250,000 in debt right now. That represents slightly over or around $100,000 reduction from a couple of years ago. We probably we saw in the last 3 years, we had a $10,000 profit, a $30,000 with our unfestival. We managed to really make that a successful event. And then this last year was our most successful yet. We're expecting to see somewhere between like around a 60 to slightly over that $1,000 profit from this last festival. So we've been inching it down. It's still obviously a pretty significant number, but I'm very optimistic with the fact that our ticket sales are right now where they were in mid-April on our previous record year. Like we're seeing just such a steep increase, and we haven't really kind of see the sales from the Sarah McLachlan announcement completely play out. So, we're anticipating a very exciting year this year, and I'm hoping to really be able to do a big do damage on the debt with those sales. But
great, and I get that you don't have your audited financials yet, but what did you think your gross revenue was last year?
That's a question I don't want to answer with that, because I don't want to make up a number that I don't know. But I can tell you that the profit, the difference between cost and revenue was roughly, like I said, sitting around $60,000 to $70,000. The reason it's such a rough number is we actually still have occasional rogue bills that have come in. We had a bill come in, a couple of weeks ago. So there's still stuff to figure out, but it's kind of, we're zeroing in on it, and it's going to sit around that number. It'll definitely be a decent profit, and it'll definitely will make a difference on the debt. It'll just be a matter of what the exact number is.
Great, thank you. You still wanted? Okay. Not seeing anybody else in the queue. So I'll thank you for the presentation, and as you know, this is next up on the agenda after we talk about service area updates. So thanks for giving us some information as we come to it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, I will turn it over to Mr. Manuel for the service area update.
Okay, bear with me. I might be out of form here. It's been a little bit. With Community Social Development, they advise the Youth Advisory Council will be doing a Eastlink TV interview on February 28th, which will feature through the month of March. In Housing and Homelessness, the director attended the Alberta Recovery Capital Summit conference held in Calgary. The conference had over 2,000 people in attendance and included the Premier, as well as the Ministry of Mental Health and Addiction. It was an excellent networking and learning opportunity on how the province is leading recovery program and resources through recovery-oriented systems of care. In enforcement services, enforcement in the RCMP met with staff from the Montrose Cultural Centre recently. They helped assist with the development of a safety plan for all employees that may be implemented in the event of protests or other significant events taking place on site. The safety plan was ultimately developed as a result of some recent concerns. In the fire department, officers are currently receiving training in the upgrade of their computer-aided dispatch system and what's called a mobile computer-aided dispatch. These are the laptops connected to dispatch within the fire trucks, and will allow for instant access to dispatch information to the trucks as they respond to emergencies, and will also be linked with EMS to allow for better information sharing between EMS and fire. Additionally, over at the RCMP on February 10th, the Grande Prairie RCMP Crime Reduction Unit conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle in the area of 99th Avenue and Resources Road after observing a moving violation. Further investigation by those officers led into a drug investigation, and while attempting to arrest the driver, he fled on foot but was apprehended after a brief foot chase. Approximately 59 individually packaged bags of suspected cocaine, totaling 35 grams, and an additional nearly $2,500 in Canadian currency was seized during the investigation, and a resident out of the city of Edmonton was ultimately charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking, possession of proceeds of crime, and resisting arrest. So good work by the Crime Reduction Unit there. At the CKC site, we have Family Day 2023 was sponsored by New Horizon Co-op and was a resounding success. Over 4,300 people were at the CKC to enjoy the activities. Two new highlights included the NWES Esport Game Lounge. In partnership with Odyssey House, an estimated 300 people enjoyed the esport activities. Snacks Odyssey House representatives were also happy for the outreach opportunities that took place. In sport development, wellness, and culture, big news here. Grande Prairie has now officially been announced as the host of the 2025 Special Olympic Summer Games. So congratulations to the applicants. Additionally, transit, the most recent timeline for downtown heated shelter delivery is April 2023. I'm just the messenger on that. I don't have a lot of further information. Additionally, accessible ridership has reached over 700 rides per week, 78% of which is pre-pandemic levels, and indications are that the trend will continue. So it's on the right track. That's a report.
Excellent. Thank you for the report. I'm not seeing anybody wave me down, so we'll let you off the hook. And that brings us to our next report, which I believe is Ms. Bieberdorf.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Large-scale tourism funding is provided to nonprofits to support events that grow tourism in the city and promote a diverse culture, celebration of our heritage, and promotion of sport. 2 applications were received for 2023, with 1 additional organization receiving prior approval at budget deliberations. The first applicant is the Bear Creek Folk Festival, now entering its 6th year of operation. It is recommended that this event is funded at $75,000, as preference for the large-scale tourism fund is provided to applicants in their first 5 years, based on the amount approved in the previous year and also based on revenue generated in 2022. The second applicant is the GrandeCon event, which is hosted by Odyssey House. It's in its 2nd year and netted just over $2,000 in 2022. The request and recommendation for this grant is $50,000. And with these recommendations and the previous $50,000 allocated to the Alberta Winter Games, $25,000 would remain in the budget, and we could potentially allocate it to the event just announced or have a second intake for this year.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much for that report. I was just wondering, is there a time when we quit funding because they've applied so many times? Is there a point where the funding will stop because at that time we feel that they should have been on their own now?
Thank you, Chair Bressie. In the current criteria, all it indicates is that preference of funding is given to new events that are less than 5 years old, but there's no hard stop in the current policy.
Fair enough, thank you.
I have Councillor Plott, then Councillor Bosch.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. Just wondering with our second intake, and maybe I missed it, was the Stampede applying again this year, or have they applied?
Thank you. As far as I know, we aren't expecting an application from them. We haven't heard from them this year.
Oh, okay. Thanks for that.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. My question is for the Grand Con event. My understanding is there was about 3,000 people last year. Is that correct?
Thank you. Just give me a second. I will double check on the number for you. Sorry, the font is really small. Yeah, approximately 2,000 per day.
For 3 days?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think of the two events, I support both and what their causes are. But I really think that hearing what we've heard from Sarah, that this event has started from bare bones and carried the debt, and all the suppliers that supported them is tremendous. So for me, I would encourage this to be increased to at least keep them on par with what it's going forward. So I'd encourage everyone to support raising this amount.
Thank you. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Again, with the Grand Con event, I know they only had 1 year so far. What is, if this is $50,000, what amount does that equate to put on their event? Are we covering a quarter with this amount? Are we covering half?
Thank you. Yes, we did have that here. So it's 18.77% of their projected budget.
So roughly 20%. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. Just kind of following up with Councillor Bosch. I'm just curious on the Grand Con one. I mean, we heard from Ms. Card about some of the hardships she's had with her events, but what's happened with Grand Con in their first? Were they in the black last year? Was it a profitable event?
Thank you. They did generate just about $2,000, so just about break even.
Okay.
Not seeing, or a question. I guess one question I've got is with the remaining $25,000 you mentioned that we could do Special Olympics or we could do a special intake. Is there, if you don't get a motion today, I guess kind of what happens with that $25,000, and is there a motion you'd recommend to deal with that $25,000?
Thank you. So we do only have the one intake per year for large-scale tourism. So if there is no motion today, the $25,000 would just be in surplus for that particular budget. But if we wanted to allocate it elsewhere, committee certainly can make a motion for that.
Great. So if I'm hearing kind of our three options are we could increase funding to one of the current applications, we could direct to go Special Olympics, or we could direct that there's another intake.
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. I do know that, I'm not sure how this fits, but perhaps council might redirect that additional $25,000 to the street performers. They've run for 22 years and at this point do not have a title sponsor. So, in fact, running the risk of not running this year, which would be a shame. So I would like council just to keep that in mind, that there is a long-standing festival that's in this city that runs the risk of not running.
Not seeing anybody else with questions, but there is business we need to do. Councillor O'Connor, you look like your finger might be moving somewhere. Is there business you were hoping to do, or is there anybody else on the committee? Okay, go ahead, Councillor O'Connor.
Just 1 second. I'm just reading a text from one of our councillors here. So. Okay. I would like to move that we approve adding the original ask to $95,000 for the Bear Creek Festival.
Okay, so, and this is a committee recommend motion, just to make sure everybody's clear. So this is definitely not the final decision right now. It's a recommendations council, but so a motion to approve $95,000 for Bear Creek Folk Festival is on the table. Does anybody have any discussion or debate on this?
Just a question for Ms. Whiteway. Is there any other funding sources that any of these groups can apply for out of a different area?
I'll turn it over to Ms. Bieberdorf, actually, because Ms. Whiteway's pointing across the room.
Thank you. Yeah, I can take that one. So we do have festival funding, which we're going to look at today. We will have a second intake of that, but there's only going to be about $10,000 left. Community group funding will also open quite soon, but that's more on the operational side of things. So those are kind of the two main grant funds we'll have left for the year.
Okay. Thank you.
So I see Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bressie. So processing what Councillor Bosch had just mentioned, for me personally, I would just like to delay and possibly do a second intake where somebody like street performers could apply for that final 25, and not saying that Bear Creek Folk Festival doesn't also apply as well for that additional 25. I'm open to that, but I think I would like a little bit more time based on the information that Councillor Bosch just shared around the Street Performers Festival.
Thank you. Councillor Palat?
Thanks, Chair Bressie. Just more of a comment, I guess, for administration on this. I'm just wondering in the future if it's possible when an event comes forward, like a Folk Fest or a Stompede that we've had continual history of just how many years we've provided funding to them and how much money we've provided them. And again, I'm not speaking that we shouldn't be providing Bear Creek, but we've had this conversation a lot about what point do we have the ability to say no to an event. And for me, I think it's important that we start looking at how much we've given to some of these events over the year and the history of how much we've given it to them too. So thanks.
Just a clarification from Councillor Thiessen, not my words, but the street performers are up for $14,000 in festival funding is what he's just texted me.
And I guess I just ask councillors, let's conduct our business in public. And if we've got debate to enter, please enter the queue and share it that way. I guess my comment on this is I'll go to Mayor Clayton before I insert myself. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. Yeah, I'm not going to support the motion to send it to council for an increased amount. I think that council as a whole can debate that. I like the comments that Councillor Berg made in regards to the fact that Street Performers is missing a title sponsor. The $14,000 that they've got for festival funding is existing funding that we've continually done. They're missing a large, significant supporter of the event this year. Special Olympics, we don't know their needs as of yet. And so the comment that was made, Bear Creek Folk Fest could come back and reapply for that $25,000 after the fact, I think is a great point. So my preference would be to send the recommendations as in the report to council for discussion and debate. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I feel the same way. I'm very open to the idea of increasing the recommended funding to Bear Creek Folk Fest, but I honestly don't understand what the financial needs of the Special Olympics might be. So I don't know if I want to make Bear Creek Folk Fest go through the work of reapplying for funding if we think we might give them an increase, but I think it'd be at least prudent to give direction to administration to come back with the actual financial needs of the Special Olympics before we decide to not leave money in the pot for them. Mayor Clayton, I see your hand still up, but I think that's just still up from before. Did you want to get in again? Okay, I see that down. Councillor O'Connor, I'm not seeing anybody else with their hands up, so I'll let you close on this if you would like to.
Yes, I think if I change my motion a bit, just to refer to council for debate and discussion and follow the process, am I okay in doing that? Yeah,
well, maybe if you want to make a friendly amendment, one that I think might pass is if you just did the original recommendation of $75,000. I think it sounds like you'd probably get that passed by committee, and then of course when it got to council, you'd be more than welcome to make a motion to amend at council if you wished.
I will make that happen. The original motion of $75,000. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Not seeing any hands up, so I will call that to question. And that motion carries. So now we do have another one of another recommended motion for Grand Con. Is anybody willing to do the business with Grand Con?
Yeah, I can.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Berg.
Yeah, I'd like to committee to recommend council approve funding for Grand Con for the recommended amount of $50,000.
Excellent. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this? Not seen any, so let's call this to question. Excellent. That carries. And then I can't make any motions here, but a motion that committee might think about making is asking administration to bring back more information about the financial needs of the Special Olympics event.
I would make that motion, Councillor Bressy.
Okay. I'll just give it a second to get into eScribe. As it's getting into eScribe, any discussion or debate on this upcoming motion? Councillor Blackmore?
I don't have a vote on this committee, of course, but I'm thinking that maybe a motion that actually opens up second funding intake might be more appropriate. That would allow any of the previously discussed festivals and events to apply. And it's not specific to any one of them.
Right.
I would love to make that motion of doing a second intake on festival funding. Boy, I'm easily. Did you pull my arm?
Okay, so Councillor Connor, I'm trying to figure out, are you withdrawing that motion to ask for more information about special?
Oh, this is another motion, right?
Well, it's. Yeah, you can't have two on the floor, so.
All right. Well, then let's continue this business. And
okay. I'll recognize Mayor Clayton, and I'll give you a minute to think about
Okay,
if you want to
perfect.
withdraw your original motion, or Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressy. Question for administration. I know it's early days. Special Olympics were just awarded to us. Do we have any expectations of when the committee may start to form? I know the timing for Bear Creek is relatively soon, and Special Olympics is a ways out, 2025. Do we know when they will actually start to get together? And do we anticipate they'll actually ask for money in 2023?
Ms. Bieberdorf.
Thank you. Yes, we actually have our first committee meeting this evening. The total budget for the event is about $440,000. So we are expecting, I would estimate, probably a $50,000 ask. So administration was considering splitting it over 23 and 24 over the 2 years, but we can certainly look at other options too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor O'Connor, do you know where you're going yet?
no, I haven't got a clue.
All right, Councillor O'Toole.
Yeah, I was just wondering when you come, when we meet on Monday for a council meeting, if we could get just a verbal report regarding the gift in kind to each one of these people that have asked for money. So the Bear Creek Folk Festival and the Grand Con, what our contribution is besides money, just gift in kind. Thank you.
See Ms. Bieberdorf nodding to that. Well, Councillor Connor, I guess if you don't know where you're going, I think the procedure bylaw actually doesn't technically allow you to withdraw a motion unless the chair is going to be really charitable. And I like that first motion. So unless there's strong objection,
Let's
I think
go
I'm
with
going to
that.
call a vote on that first motion. So I'll call the vote on the motion to ask administration to bring back a report to committee with further information on the funding needs of the Special Olympics. And Councillor Berg, how do you vote?
It's still submitting, I guess, that internet. I'm going to vote opposed.
And that motion does carry. And then, Councillor O'Connor, would you like to make another motion?
I'm not prepared at this point. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Councillor Berg, Councillor Clayton, unless you raise your hand, I'm going to move on to the next set of business. Mayor
ahead.
Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressy. I know this question was asked, and the answer has slipped my mind. Can administration tell me if there isn't a motion to direct administration to bring back another intake? You said that it'll go back, then it would be unspent in this line item. However, if you don't get direction, will you bring back another intake, or we actually just leave it there, knowing that Special Olympics may need it, knowing that Bear Creek has asked for more, knowing that potentially street performers are looking for more? Is your anticipation that you will bring it back, or actually just leave it in the line item as unspent?
Ms. Bieberdorf.
Thank you. I think we would prefer to have direction to bring back a second intake because it's outside of the criteria.
Sure. So, Chair Bressie, if there's no one else in the queue, I'm happy to make the motion, Committee Direct Administration, to open another intake for the $25,000 remaining in large-scale tourism funding. My concern, though, would be the fact that the timing, I guess, with that motion, Administration, what would be your timing to open that intake?
Ms. Bieberdorf?
Thank you. Since we have all the forms and all of the graphics and everything ready, we could put out the intake pretty quick and have it turned around probably within the next month or two.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll speak for myself. I'm going to vote opposed. For me, it's I've heard that there's at least some councillors that want to consider increasing funding to Bear Creek Folk Fest, and to consider that funding, I don't really see the need to do another work of asking them to do another application when I don't think the application would be actually any different. I think that there's also potential to support the Special Olympics, and I think that's a special kind of fringe case for me because it is such a city-sponsored event, but also the organizing committee hasn't got together, so I'm happy to help that one be a little bit outside of usual process. I don't know if I want to start an application, have other existing groups that aren't those kind of special cases all of a sudden applying for funding, and we have to really make hard decisions, get hopes up over the small amount of $25,000 remaining. So for me personally, I'd be more comfortable leaving that money for now, and when we get the information about Special Olympics, we can decide, do we want to allocate it to them? Do we want to increase Bear Creek Folk Fest, or do we want to just let this amount roll out of the budget? But for me, I don't want to personally do another round of intakes. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you. I will be supporting Mayor Clayton's motion, and for the same reason I was opposed to the last one. I wanted a wider audience. I do want to take a deeper look into street performers and Bear Creek as well, because again, the full amount there is more than what they had asked for and what they'd required. So I'd like to take a deeper look on this and not let it slide. So I'm going to support Mayor Clayton's motion.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Just a comment, just because I know the kind of inner workings of the street performers, they have not ever asked for more than $14,000 in their 22 years of running this festival. And I can tell you that it takes a lot more money than $14,000 to put that on. So I think there has to be consideration to others in this pool. If you're looking at 18,000 people coming a year to street performers versus 2,000, 6,000 in a weekend, we have to put some considerations of where this money allocation should go. I really think we need a deeper look in this. I'm not on this committee, so I can't vote on anything, but I do have a comment in regards to how we look into the future of this.
I just guess my comment on that, this is a well-known community grant that I saw good advertisement of it. If a group didn't apply, that's an established group in the committee. For me, I'm happy to consider them if they apply next year. But Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, I think you're not allowed to get two different streams of funding for two different events. So 9 times out of 10, one will not be approved. So I think there's caution there, and I think delaying this and sending it back for administration to come back is the right move. And I will support Mayor Clayton's motion.
Excellent. I'm not seeing anybody in the queue, so I'll call this vote's question. And that motion carries. And unless somebody flags me down, I'm going to move on to the next order of business. All right, next report is Ms. Bieberdorf again.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. So the Community Advisory Committee met on February 9th to review applications for arts development and pursuit of excellence funding. We had 9 applications for festival funding and all met the criteria. We did have some recommendations that were adjusted from their request just based on the criteria of funding no more than 50% of the event budget. And for operational funding, we had 2 applications and both met all the criteria and are recommended for funding. For pursuit of excellence, we had 16 applications for coaches, 10 for athletes, and 2 for sport hosting. and all were recommended except for the applicants for hiking. They aren't on the list of our recommended sports and are not funded through Sport Canada, so we did not recommend them. And administration is working with those applicants to see if there's other funding opportunities that would be more suitable for them. So administration is recommending grant funding in the amounts outlined in Appendix A for a total of $79,100 for festival funding, $10,000 for operational funding, and $13,831.39 for Pursuit of Excellence.
Excellent. Thank you for the report. Are there any questions? Looks like this one might be easier for us. Is there anybody willing to conduct the business? Councillor Berg.
Yeah, I'll do business, but I just had one quick question. I was just trying to find a grand total of what this grant allocation is before I make. It's more out of curiosity before I make a motion.
Ms. Bieberdorf?
Sure, thank you. So the festival funding total budget is $90,000. I'm assuming he's asking about festival funding.
Yep.
Excellent. And you're...
Yeah, this grant that we're about to do here right now, I see lots of $1,000 and $750s. I'm just curious what it's totaled up to.
And you said you're willing to do the business?
Yes. The committee recommend council approve funding allocations as presented in Appendix A. I would love to list off all of the names, but it's an extensive one. Compliments to all the athletes and coaches that are working to make our community better and build better athletes and better people. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any conversation or debate? Not seeing any. I will call this to question. Excellent. Thank you. That motion carries. And Ms. Bieberdorf, I know how complicated this grant process could be, so thanks for the work of you and your team. We really appreciate it. And that brings us up. Next up, we've got our Chief of Police, Superintendent Brackman.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. I just wanted to take have an opportunity to present a report on a comparison of the police and crisis teams, commonly referred to as PACT, as well as kind of the work that Mobile Outreach does and some of the similarities and differences therein, per some previous direction from committee on this. So the Grande Prairie Police and Crisis Teams, or PACT, is, as many are on the table today know, is a collaborative partnership between the Grande Prairie Municipal RCMP and the Alberta Health Services. We have two PACT teams in Grande Prairie, comprised of one uniformed RCMP police officer and one registered psychiatric nurse, employed by AHS. And the scheduling is such that both teams work opposite each other to maximize coverage to the community. The primary function of PACT is, as again many are aware, is to respond to mental health related calls for service, mental health crises, to intervene, assess, and conduct follow-ups with individuals in the community who are experiencing those mental health crises. And a large part of the client group of PACT is the street engaged population. However, that's not their sole client group as well. PACT operates broadly within the community. Mental health crises can impact widely in the community, and so that widens the client base from strictly street engaged individuals to the wider community as well. And it really is more of a medical intervention based system with the expertise of the nurse available to provide that medical assistance to individuals in mental health crises, coupled with their knowledge of mental health, mental illness, and the police officer is there mostly for a couple of different reasons. One of which is safety, public safety, as well as the safety of the nurse working with them, as well as police officers have the authority under the Provincial Mental Health Act to apprehend individuals who meet certain conditions, who may need to be involuntarily apprehended and conveyed to a designated facility, one of which is the Grande Prairie Regional Health Center, or Grande Prairie Regional Hospital, for psychiatric assessment and evaluation. So just a bit of a statistical overview for the calendar years 2020 through 2022. In those years, PACT was associated to about 2,223 police files and was the primary unit on 1,516 of those files for an annual average file load of about 741 police files. And on average, there were about 442 police files that were Mental Health Act files specifically. And the average monthly file load is just under 62 files total. So that's split between the two teams. And then there's further information on that in the statistical report included in Council's and Committee's package as well. PACT, the purpose of PACT is to overall reduce inpatient admissions and hospital emergency visits for people in crisis, and in doing so, PACT is able to provide that rapid stabilization and return to pre-crisis functioning for the people in crisis, right? So kind of the goal is to have that expertise, that knowledge from the nurse as well as the trained police officer to intervene in mental health crisis situations, and not every intervention requires a visit to the hospital. Sometimes they can be treated or followed up with within the community or referred to other resources in the community as well. In addition to PACT, the city also has a mobile outreach program where outreach workers are in the front lines dealing with matters related to homelessness, addictions, mental health. They assist businesses and residents in handling of community concerns related to the street engaged population as well, including but not limiting to a variety of functions, including trespassing, loitering, disturbances, needle debris, encampments, wellness checks, and public intoxication. So the outreach workers, as I'm aware, conduct field-based assessments to determine clients' vulnerabilities and risk factors as well. And they may be referred to caseworkers for further follow-up or referrals to other community supports or partner organization supports, one of which could actually be PACT as well. So I guess overall, while there is some overlap sometimes between the work of PACT and mobile outreach, they definitely are distinct programs in terms of their focus. We have, the PACT focus being mental health and health related, and the mobile outreach program being socially focused, related to housing, homelessness, and very critical work there as well. So they really do, the services do complement each other and are both valued services here in the community. So I guess overall, if there was ever a time where one service wasn't functioning or wasn't in existence, I think that there would be some risks and vulnerabilities there, service delivery gaps, specifically with respect to follow-up related to mental health crises. In and outside the street engaged population as well, right? There's individuals that have come to rely on the support provided by PACT, as well as individuals that have come to rely on the support provided by mobile outreach. So I think both do complement each other quite well. So I guess, in summary, prior to opening questions, as I mentioned, while there is some distinct client crossover, or while there is some client crossover, there are programs that are distinctly different, with some definite opportunities for liaison between the programs. That they do complement each other in my view quite well. PACT provides immediate response and support to active mental health crises, ensuring the safety, overwatch, and legal authorities of a police officer, coupled with the clinical expertise of a nurse, and again is health focused in nature, whereas mobile outreach again is focused on serving the street engaged population here in Grande Prairie with a social focus. And as partners, they may refer to each other for assistance with clients as well. Overall, pending any questions, that's my presentation this morning.
So thank you, Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Councillor Bressie. I've long advocated for increased PACT teams, so what I'm going to say is probably not a surprise to you, but our program is limited somewhat in that AHS is who funds the psychiatric nurse that travels with the PACT team. There was some discussion earlier in the year about whether or not AHS would fund a psychiatric nurse position with mobile outreach, and I'm wondering if we've heard anything back or if we have any way of knowing how they are regarding that request.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Councillor Blackmore, we have engaged with AHS on that. To date, we don't have a firm answer one way or the other, but I do have regular monthly meetings with the folks over at Unit 11 at the hospital, and so that's it is something that I will continue to advocate for the community.
Okay, thank you. And while you're asking them for more, can you ask them for another psych nurse to match another police officer for the PACT team? They do an amazing amount of really good work in the community. It's work that saves lives, and I just cannot say enough about how effective the PACT team is.
Absolutely, thank you.
Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. I, like Councillor Blackmore, absolutely agree that the PACT team is essential for our community. There is differences, plain and simple, that you can't put in the mobile outreach team to replace. The mobile outreach team, fantastic. I appreciate them greatly, but they're different beasts, in my opinion. I guess my question to you is, somewhere in this report I read it's $193,000 a year per police officer.
Yeah, that's that's the rate that I was quoted by our financial folks. That's estimated as well, based on the current contract here in Grande Prairie. So I can, if there's further refinement that's required there, I can definitely get some more information for you.
So that's per person. So that's the only thing that is seems really high to me. I don't normally see police officers making $200,000 a year.
No, that's the all-in cost, and with that would include not just salary, benefits, that kind of thing, but also equipment, vehicles. That's the all-in cost, kind of bundled cost per member, not salary dollars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. Thanks for the report. I appreciated how it kind of highlighted what PACT does and what mobile outreach does, just for the oversight. But I guess my question is more about the mobile outreach. Just looking at the call volumes, it looks like about 80-ish, maybe even a little bit higher percent of the calls actually can go through mobile outreach, and that's a check mark that they can deal with so a lot of the mental health and the well-being checks and some of that. I'm just wondering if you have a feel of, once we get our coordinated care campus open and our other building here, do we anticipate those calls dropping off once we have a lot better housing for a lot of these folks?
Well, and I think housing and homelessness is one aspect related to the mental health and addictions crisis type of issues. So I think the coordinated care campus definitely has a role to play there. In terms of kind of overall, when we look at PACT service delivery, we can have individuals in the broader community outside of the street engaged population as well. So definitely I think there's a role to play for the CCC there, but there's also still going to be that complement that doesn't meet the criteria for that type of support. So I guess overall, I think I think the idea would be to see a reduction in that particular client group area, and with continuing, and that's the thing, I guess, when you look at the support that we provide through PACT and through mobile outreach as well, to an extent. If we continue to do the proactive follow-up, then I guess the idea is that we reduce those individuals or the potential for those individuals to go back into crisis. And so I think that will ultimately reduce those calls for service.
Okay, no, perfect. Thank you.
A question I've got is PACT's an RCMP service, mobile outreach isn't an RCMP service. How's the integration of the working together go, and what's that look like, and how's it going?
Mm-hmm. To my knowledge, it's going quite well. I know that we've opened up conversations with mobile outreach to have them start coming to some of our briefings and stuff to make sure that we're sharing information fluidly across all delivery streams there. And I think that the tactical working relationship between PACT and MOP, as far as I understand it, is quite good as well. I do think that perhaps there are opportunities always to enhance, but I think that we're on the right track right now.
Good, thank you. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. My question is, AHS, are they willing to potentially put more nursing on staff if you wanted to increase the teams?
And I think that's a conversation that we've opened up here locally with AHS, and I think that that's something that they're going to have to take up for their executive levels. I am aware that AHS is engaged with the rural policing crisis teams outside of the city as well. So I'm not sure what pressures they have specifically, but it's definitely some questions I can bring back to them.
Maybe after today's budget, we'll find out.
Any further questions? Well, thank you for the report. And Grande Prairie led the way on PACT teams. And I think that, at least for mid-sized cities, we're leading the way on mobile outreach as well. So really proud of the work our community does to be sending the right resource to the right call. So thank you for your leadership on it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. That is our last main order of business, but we do still have an outstanding items list. Oh, sorry. Could we get Councillor O'Connor will make a motion to receive for information.
Yes, I will move that we receive this report for information.
And that motion carries. All right, now I think we can move on to the outstanding items list, and I'll turn it to Mr. Manuel.
Okay, thank you. I am just trying to bring up the list. It looks like I have it now. Okay, so it looks like today we've now addressed item 1236, the PACT mobile outreach changes. So I recommend removal of that from the list. Further to that, it looks like everything else remains on track at this point.
Great. Thank you. Is anybody be willing to make a motion to receive as amended? Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. I move that we accept this report as amended.
Great. Thank you. I will call that to question. And that motion carries. And with that, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.